a world within our world. They've created a world unlike any other world.
Dungeons and Dragons. And a game like D&D fuels their imagination and makes them feel special.
The ogre is amused by your joke and allows you to pass.
Dad, I'm just curious. What is it about Dungeons and Dragons that suddenly leapt out at you at age 60?
Dungeons, it'd be the dungeons.
Just what I love about role-playing games is being told exactly what to do.
Me too. You should introduce yourselves.
Hey guys, you are listening to The Spellbook right here on Guelph Community Radio 93.3 CFRU. I am one of your hosts. I am Mike the Birdman Ashkui, but I'm not alone as I bring you this transcendent experience on this show. I'm joined by my compatriot who I've summoned from the wild wastes of London, Ontario.
Greetings from the Forest City. I am Damien Morfitt.
And welcome back to The Spellbook. For those of you just joining us for the first time, and I hope you'll be here for a good long time, we are the show that is dedicated to exploring and talking about the tabletop role-playing game hobby. It could be us talking about specific settings, specific lore, general advice, conversation, but we also may occasionally have interviews from developers, writers, and so many other cool people from this wonderful hobby that has definitely exploded in popularity over the last couple of years. But some of you may have been playing since the 70s, in which case, a little jealous. And some of you may be starting tomorrow. And I look forward to hearing your adventures, as we actually have an email address if you want to talk with us here on the Spellbook. Damien, if they wanted to chat with us here on the Spellbook, where would they have to go?
Well, that's a great question, Mike. The email address in question is thespellbookshow@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
Yes, and as long as you are not a complete jerk, we will read your message on the air. And if you are a jerk, I'll find a way to make it funny. So tonight's episode, because we tend to record these in the evening, because me and Damien keep unusual hours that even vampires would be like, man, you got to work on your sleep schedule. We're going to be talking tonight about something that is foundational to role playing, and that's not just bring your dice, be on time, although that's definitely part of it. Tonight is about being a good player and what we've learned from our experiences, and that's a very broad and general topic, because we've talked about session 0, where you meet your dungeon master, you meet people who may be complete strangers to you, and sometimes you bail. Maybe life gets in the way. Maybe, I don't know, someone randomly, I don't know, maybe their cat or dog gets sick. Life happens. But sometimes you get a group together, a group of your friends, maybe even some strangers, and you decide, okay, we are going to meet on this day for this many hours, and we're just going to play. And this is where groups will either make it or break it, because Damien, you used a phrase that I love. It's like herding cats. It's trying to get same people on the same schedule. It's hard, and it's incredibly hard. Hell, you and I have recently tried to have a game together within the last couple months where people's schedules and interests just fell apart, and it's nobody's fault. It's just life happens. Life gets in the way, and there's nothing you should really do about it. I mean, you really can't even feel sorry. Just life happens, man. So what are you going to do? So tonight, when we're talking about being a good player, it's going to be sort of, I wouldn't even say do and don'ts, but rules for setting best practice being a player. So let's start with, what is being a bad player? And that's a very subjective term, because we're not calling everybody who does all these things a bad person and a jerk, and you should exile them to Icewind Dale. No, these are just some things that maybe we don't like. So, Damien, in your opinion, what starts a bad player?
Okay, so the first thing for myself that comes to mind when you think of a bad player would be the rules lawyer. The person who sits, at the table and when somebody tries something cool that may not be covered in the rules, or they may be trying to, utilize a mechanic in a creative way, they're like, actually, that doesn't work that way. Like,
Yeah.
knowing the rules is fine, knowing the mechanics is fine, and, like, at one point in time, I could probably have recited the 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons DMG to you verbatim. There was a time in my life that I didn't have much going on, is reading material. It's fine. But there's knowing when to apply that information. So yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, the rules lawyer, I think it would be the first thing that would come to mind for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, because when you're bringing a game to the table and you're in the moment and you're having fun, you don't need someone reminding you, well, it doesn't work like that. Now, sometimes you can let some stuff through. Like, there's always the rule of cool, which is a rule that I tend to play with at my tables. But I've also had a kid stop me. And I will never forget this for as long as I live. And I'm not going to single this one kid out by like naming him, but they were I felt they were maybe a little young to be at my table, but hey, I talked with their parents and it was cool. So, and I'm doing my big villain soliloquy, and this person has decided they're going to turn the tables on me. Okay, I can roll with this. I'll make it work. You've betrayed the party. Don't know why you did, but sure, let's run with it. And he starts giving me a lore and a rule dump in the middle of it. And I let him finish because I'm not going to be rude. And a fight breaks out at the table. And we're like, okay, guys, everybody take 5. And eventually I have to explain to this person, look, we're in a world where I can literally say a wizard did it, and that's a valid reason. Y'all need to realize we're all here for a good time, not a long time. Let's agree to disagree and let's kind of keep moving. And that was probably one of the most disruptive moments I've ever experienced as a game master in 20 plus years. I started game mastering in like the mid 90s, I want to say, and I've run a couple long running campaigns now finally. But that is a moment that it took me so off guard. I didn't know what to do with it. Like, literally, Damien, I got stun locked. Someone had hit me with stunning strike, and I was like, what? And it's so weird because, like, some people, they want rules. They want crunch. They want things to mechanically make sense. Can I hit that guy? Well, from your elevated position, you should probably be able to... Yeah, sure. You can hit him. Makes sense. But other times, there's a time and a place for that. Like, I'm not expecting, like, for example, like, there are ways to... I'm trying to figure out how to say this without backpedaling on what I'm going to say next. Where, like, keeping track of ammunition in a game, for example, that's something I've actually started doing recently, and I never used to. Because I never wanted to be, okay, I hope you're counting arrows. And I used to run with the rule for literally decades, up until the last 2 years. I was like, okay, it's going to be dramatic ammo. You will run out when I say you run out. That is a way to take agency away from the players. And I found that was me being a bad dungeon master. Now, that's probably a hot take, because is this an inventory management game, or am I going to go kill some orcs today? Well, it's kind of both. But one of the things I find being a bad player is coming unprepared. What do I mean by that? I do not expect you, because this is sort of like a variant of your rules lawyer thing, where if you come to the table and you are playing a chronomancer, or you are a monk of the shadow or something, or I don't know, an illusionist wizard or some BS, do you know how your character works? there is one example I can think of from my own life, and Damien, I'd love to hear your perspective on this, where one player did not know what their particular class did. They just thought it sounded cool. So I'm not going to slight them on that because I don't want to harsh anybody's vibe. But they didn't know as a bard how to hand out inspiration. They didn't know how to debuff. If I gave them a magic item, they didn't know how it worked. And it slowed the game to a crawl. A simple combat that should have taken no more than a couple of moments took over an hour because of this. And I don't want to slap their hand and say, well, did you do your homework, little Jimmy? Because that sucks. Nobody wants to do that either. But maybe read the day before the pop quiz. You know what I mean? Thoughts?
Yeah. Like I am a very big proponent of know what your character does. I also think the GM, storyteller, DM, whatever you want to call them, should at least have a basic idea of what all of the PCs can do. But that's a different topic for, a different day. But yeah, know what your character can do, at least on a basic level. We were all new once.
Mm-hmm.
We all played new classes where we didn't maybe know exactly what we were doing just yet.
Mhm.
But make the effort, I think, is what this boils down to.
Yeah, because I remember when you and I had played together for the first time in many years, we were playing, we talked about this on another episode. We played Battletech together. I know the rules for the tabletop game, which is the War Minis game, but I didn't know the role-playing game rules as well as I should have. And you have no idea how bad I kept feeling, because I kept asking, what do I roll here? How do I add this up? And I felt terrible because I knew I was slowing down the game and the momentum. And that's something that, like I said, I did make the effort because I learned by doing. And I was just listening to how everybody's turn plays out, you listening to the phrasing they were doing, and eventually I got it down where I'd only have to ask 1 or 2 questions a session. So it got a lot faster. But in the beginning, I felt terrible for not knowing some of these things. And there are some digital tools which do assist with this now to be a better player. In fact, that's one rule I have at my table. If we're playing anything D&D, you are using D&D Beyond. You are using a dice roller. And you may say, well, why? Isn't that a little exclusionist? Yes and no. Yes, because not everybody may have a smartphone that's capable of accessing the website, but there's an app. I'm going to presume most people have a smartphone that can do this. I mostly do it to prevent accidental cheating. Like if you say, I cast Cure Wounds at first level, cool, mark it off your sheet so I can see it. I want you keeping track of your spell slots. If you shoot an arrow, okay, just take it out of your inventory. This way, there's no reason for you to be that guy. And I don't believe a lot of people cheat on purpose. If you're playing a game of adventure and pretend, yeah, it's kind of cool to do the awesome thing once, but if you know it's cheating, did you really earn it? Are you here for a story or an ego stroke? Neither of which is great, right? Sometimes, okay, you've now robbed the story of all of its agency and you slew Sauron with a critical 20, you swear hit, and you hit him 3 more times. Okay, guys, guess he's dead. Do you want to go get some pizza? You know what I mean? It's lame. But we'll talk more about what being a good player is right here on the Spellbook. I've been Mike, joined with my good friend Damien. We will be back here on Guelph Community Radio, 93.3 CFRU.
This is Eliza from Mauno, and you're listening to CFRU.
Now it's time for the final battle. Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile! I'm out of mana!
Welcome back to the Spellbook on CFRU 93.3 Guelph Community Radio as we talk about what makes a good player.
Yeah, we've kind of talked a little bit about what makes a bad player. And then we've talked about kind of like the rules lawyer, maybe even the continuity lawyer. But sometimes it boils down to something a little bit different. Some of this depends on you developing good habits. And as Damien talked about, it's knowing what your character can do. Now, we were all new once, as he mentioned, and you should be allowed to try out something new. Like, I didn't discover Monk and Druid were my favorite classes until probably the last 2 or 3 years. I've been playing for 20. And I had to learn what these things did. And now you don't want me bringing a Druid to your table. I am that guy. But it's also learning what can make your DM's life easier. A lot of that, and this is going to sound so simple. Pick up your phone, send a text, send an email. If you can't make it, or if something has come up, call if you can, or if that's kind of the group protocol everyone's kind of set upon, or email and let people know. Just say, hey, can't make it, something's come up. And if you're noticing a pattern, like let's say Sarah can't make Thursdays for whatever reason, but Jim always seems to be good on Friday nights, and Sarah also seems to be Friday nights but hasn't said anything. And if your group keeps missing your sessions, say, okay, do we need to move it? Communication is so key. And one thing I really want to send a shout out to you, Damien, is you were so flexible with me because I'm a disabled individual. I have health that can change on a dime, sometimes multiple times a day, be it mental or physical health. And that's something that I think being a good player also acknowledges what your limitations are. Because sometimes you don't want to play Elf and Hobbit. Sometimes you just don't want to do that and you need a break. I know I would message you sometimes a few hours before a game. I just had a terrible day at work and I didn't want to bring the rest of the table down. And you're like, okay, I hear you. And even you had a few times where you were like, guys, it's been a really bad day and I don't want to bring the room down. Can we move this?
Yeah.
And you were cool.
And that's the thing is life happens. And, as being a tabletop gamer as an adult, you know what? Sometimes, you may not have the mana. Sometimes somebody else in the group may not be able to attend for whatever reason. All you can really do is be like, well, it sucks, but, hopefully things get better. Let's, see what we can do in their absence or pick it up again next week.
Yeah, because that's something I started doing with my group. I ran D&D and I was getting a little burned out on it. So I'm like, hey man, I like this. I do. But can we run Star Trek on alternating weeks? And we did for a few months. I'm starting to have to back that back now because I'm recognizing it may be too much for me to run multiple games a week. And that's something I've definitely noticed as an adult, role-playing hits a little bit differently because I wouldn't say your priorities change, but you as a person change. And you want different things out of it. And you should never bring problems to the table. Like, if you're having a bad day, it's okay. As you mentioned, if your mana's low, just say, hey guys, I'm not good. I don't want to play tonight, but could we do something else? Like, hey, maybe you end up playing a board game. Maybe you end up going out for a drink, or maybe you get together and you watch something on Netflix together. And even if you're in separate places, there are apps you can use where you can watch the same thing at the same time and still hang it on Discord and still build that group camaraderie, but never be that guy who just doesn't show up. Because the thing that'll kill most role-playing game groups, it's not the Renraku Corporation. It's not the Borg. It's not even Vecna. It's scheduling. And that's life. That sucks, but that's life. I mean, hell, even in my personal life right now, in the private game I've been a part of for the last couple of years, we have to take a break this week because one of our guys works in a very high stress field. I'm not going to reveal what, but he's like, guys, I got some stuff at work. I can't play on Monday. Can we move this to a different night? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's all work it out. But my game master who's running it works at an entertainment venue. And he's like, I don't get off work till like 9 or 10. Usually it's dead. So maybe I can come home a little bit early. But like, well, we don't want you game mastering from a cab. Though they have played their character on their phone on Discord in the back of an Uber, and he's got some looks. We'll just say that. So that's not realistic. So we're kind of thinking maybe this week's not going to happen. The fact that our group has been together for 2 years, we're probably pretty stable. We're going to go with that. So communication is being, I would say, the cornerstone of being a good player. But in addition to knowing what your character can do, that also helps. That's a little bit of mechanical homework. But what can you do to build that group together? And we've talked about this a little bit previously, but not in any super great detail. So the session 0, where everybody gets together at someone's house or on Discord or wherever you meet, and they start having a conversation, start hashing out ideas. This is where you as a player can collaborate with your other players and start to create interesting stories. This is where characters can build relationships, so you can avoid the world's most tired trope. You meet in a bar and someone gives you a job. That is so exceptionally boring most times. But for example, in my private group that I play in, one of my players decided he wants to play a bard. Like, okay, that's cool. I hear it. They're not very well known in this setting, but okay, cool. I hear you. And one of our players is playing a knight of a knightly order. So those two start talking. Now, I've never seen these two collaborate on anything. One of my players is a guy that I hang out with, and let's just call him Tom. And he's not, sometimes he gets really engaged, but he's not great at making backstories. So he starts working with my other friend. I don't know. I'm trying to think, well, what's a good name with P? I don't know. Let's call him Peter. So Peter and Tom are chatting, and they're like, okay, well, what if my bard was working with your knight and he's chronicling everything that's going on to make him seem more epic? Like, I'm your groupie. And my friend Tom's like, I love it. And those two had never really collaborated before. And they started creating this great dynamic that I'd never seen those two ever do before. And that was so interesting. What are some collaboration tips that maybe you've seen to become a better player?
So one of the things, and this is actually something that I like to do, and like I was actually going to mention that is like with collaboration is find a way to bring other people, not necessarily into your backstory, but your current story, very similar to the knight and their groupie. I one campaign that I was a part of for a short time, as a player, I was playing as a tiefling artificer. And one of the things that I like made sure to do is pretty much everything that I crafted, because that was like this character's main shtick was like they wanted to craft stuff, was essentially to benefit the rest of the party.
Oh,
Yeah, like one of the other party members got this like homing pigeon type bird that they could use to send letters to their kid. And the GM was like, well, if you move when you send this bird, it's not going to be able to find you. It's going to go back to the city you sent it from, type deal. Which it makes sense.
mhm.
But what I did was I made an item that essentially could draw this bird to it.
Did you make an air tag?
Kinda. Like we had a cart, and I was like, well, okay, so I'm gonna make this, and I'm gonna make it look like a bird. So like the design that I thought of in my head is, those like wind ornaments that it's like a bird, but it has like two propellers for wings.
Mm-hmm.
It was essentially one of those that we stuck to the top of the cart.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh yeah, and like the main reason that I built this was so that the other player could send their bird out with a message, and we could still get it while we were on the road, because the bird would come back instead of this to the city, it would go back to this this fake bird type deal. And it's about essentially benefiting the rest of the group while still obviously sticking within the good aspect of what your character.
Yeah, and the fact that you asked consent, like, hi, can I do this for you? Because you don't want to you don't want to set a bad precedent by writing this awesome backstory, including other players in your table, and you say, oh yeah, your mage totally helped me here. Did I? Like, you don't want to take agency away from them, but if you ask, that's awesome. You created the world's first medieval air tag. My guys are creating the world's first, like, I don't know, blog that is happening in real time. It's kind of astounding what you can do if you're just willing to sit down, like, okay, guys, what is cool? Or maybe when you collaborate, when you're developing group cohesion, maybe you develop something really neat. Like you literally come together with like Danny Ocean's 11 type of gang where everybody has like a different specialty and does all these different things. And maybe your DM gets an idea for a heist or something like that. And you really kind of play into that, because you as the players, you have to make sure the game's fun for your DM too. Because if your DM is putting in all this work and you're having fun and they're not, that's a conversation moment. And that's kind of where I've run into problems myself, because sometimes I really want to make my friends happy and I don't practice self-care and I get burned out. Like I had to stop my first, actually, I'm not even kidding. Our first game came together because I got burned out. And like, guys, I don't know whether I can keep doing this. And fortunately, my friend Peter's like, hey, why don't I run it for a while and see what happens? Now he's the main DM. I'm the secondary DM when he needs a break. And now and then our friend Sam, who's currently running us through our main game, is really putting it so me and Peter can play. And now we have a whole new dynamic. So that's another good thing to be a player too. Talk to people, collaborate, see what you can come up with. And you might be pleasantly surprised what can come out of these conversations. Maybe you develop your own Batman and Robin. Maybe you're the Jimmy Olsen to Superman or whatever. Or maybe you're like that little dude in that show, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and maybe he needs a squire, right? So maybe there's all sorts of cool things you can do there. We're going to take another break here on the Spellbook, right here on Guelph's Community Radio, CFRU 93.3. And when we come back, we're going to talk about getting a little bit more into character, to bring your characters to life and not to do blackface like they did on Community. While amusing, don't do that. We'll be back right after this.
Hello, CFRU listeners. We are the hosts of Tales from the Bridge podcast. My name is Tristan.
I'm Sam.
I'm Marty.
And I'm Kevin.
You can check out our show, Tales from the Bridge, every Thursday morning on CFRU at 9 a.m.
We interview science fiction creators, including authors, directors of movies.
If you want to check out some of our back episodes, check out our website, talesfromthebridge.com.
So join us, talesfromthebridge.com, or on CFRU Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. And let's make our way over to the bridge.
Okay, I'm not the best at making up names.
Oh, hey, I'm Mar. Boy, you weren't kidding.
Hello, Mar. My name is Bing Bong the Archer. I'm an archer and such.
Ew, Hector the Well-Endowed? Abed.
I didn't know you just grab one at random. I made that one with Troy in mind.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Welcome back to the Spellbook on CFRU 93.3, Guelph Community Radio.
Before the break, I was discussing a very memorable moment from an episode of the NBC comedy Community, where Ken Jeong's character, Mr. Chang, dressed up in blackface to portray a drow elf of some type. And don't do that, I'm going to say. However, it does bring up something interesting. And that's getting into character. This is, I think, being a really good player, is testing your boundaries within limits. And what do I mean by that? Well, you're hanging out with your friends. You're clearly comfortable enough to roll dice and pretend that the corporation is threatened, monsters are coming from space, or there's a dream demon trying to kill you. We've all kind of bought into, we're all going to play pretend in however old we are. We've bought into that. But what happens when you want to take that immersion a little bit deeper to where you can really assist other players at the table? And that's just getting into character. And one of the most important things, we've talked about the importance of background, but this is something that I got from another person. I think it might have been TTRPG YouTuber Ginny D, or maybe this was Michael Dismuke from Continuing Missions, which is the Star Trek Adventures podcast. Actually, I think it was Michael. I'm almost positive, but Ginny D is awesome too. You should follow her. So it's a simple 5 questions called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here are things you can do for your DM, and this might help you get ideas for your character too. Question 5, write 5 important concepts that are developmental and or integral to your character. This can be personality, impactful life events, physical characteristics, sentimental items, etc. Number 4, write up to 4 goals you'd like to see throughout the campaign. Please include a mix of both character-driven and player-driven goals. What do you want to get out of this? 3, create 3 NPCs that are important to your character. 2 must be friendly and familiar to your character. The other should be adversarial. You're giving the DM something to play with, but you're also giving yourself someone who's your rival. Think of, he's the Gary to your Ash Ketchum. Number 2, create 2 secrets for your character. One is a secret your character knows. The others involve them, but they are unaware. Plot thread, and maybe something you can even hide and you can role play out. And finally, question 1, develop 1 reason why you're going on the adventure. This is what connects you to the other characters and acts as an investment towards the completion of the story. Maybe you just want to get rich. Why? Because I want to get rich. Okay, that's awesome. Go buy a lottery ticket. I want to get rich. Why? My mom's sick. My village was burned down. My father has been turned into living stone, and I need money to gather alchemical ingredients to create an anti-petrification thing, but the items are extremely weird and rare, and I need help getting them. That's a good story. And that's you being a good player by investing yourself emotionally, investing yourself creatively. It's not just cool, I've got boots of flying, I got a +1 sword, and I have the Helm of Dread. Awesome. I hope you paid someone on DeviantArt to draw your character. And I find by willing to invest in little thought experiments like this, it deepens the relationship between you and this fictional persona that you're embodying. Like, this is going to be an example that I remember from you, Damien, because this is the time you and I were interacting as players in a game. That's something you and I haven't done together, is play much together, outside of, like, I think the Aliens thing, which I think your friend ran. You had played in a vampire LARP, for those that don't know, live action role playing. So Damien was physically embodying this character, and my guy had zero personality. I was a postage stamp. But your character spoke with an accent, embodied arguably the worst parts of Boondock Saints, but
very much so.
but you embodied what that character was like.
And that's a thing that I think more people should try to do. Like, and now that character was over the top, to say the least.
Yeah.
Super fun. It's
Oh, yeah.
super, super fun to play. But that's the thing, is your character doesn't necessarily need to be over the top in order for you to embody that. As long as, again, as I said before, I'm a kick this dead horse. You buy in.
Mm-hmm.
You're there as a player to have fun and play pretend with. You're there as a PC to be a part of that story. Now, maybe you came in with a character, their main reason for going out and adventuring is, I just want to get rich. Okay, cool. That was how you were at the start. How is the story going to change you, and how are you going to interact with those around you? Are you from an area that has, an accent?
Yeah. And you could.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was going to say, because you bring up something cool too. When you look up an area, you can draw cultural things from that area. Don't culturally appropriate, but maybe give it your own spin.
Yeah. Now, if you're not comfortable doing accents, which a lot of people aren't, and for the most part, that's probably better because most accents are stereotypical.
Yeah,
we'll just say.
Yeah, like over the top comedy, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Change the pitch of your voice a little bit. So, like, I'm talking right now, and this is basically my average presenting voice. But say I was playing a gruff soldier. Well, maybe I talk like this. There's not really an accent. It's just, my voice is a little bit more gravelly and rough.
Mm-hmm. Demeanor.
Yeah. And that, it helps distinguish when you're talking out of character and in character, which will help the GM. But B, it will also help you get into that character's head and build it out more. You might not even write it down on paper or type it into Notepad, but you'll then start to think, okay, so this is a gruff soldier type. Maybe he really likes to take care of his guns, and maybe you start bringing that up, in downtime and like RP sessions where you're sitting off to the side, you're taking part of the conversation and part of the role play, but your characters, maybe they're maintaining their sidearm or maintaining their sword or something like that, and you can use that to add flavor.
Yeah,
add things for other people to interact with.
Yeah, like when you add idiosyncrasies to your character, that gives your DM so much to play with, and it gives your fellow PCs something to interact with. Like one of the idiosyncrasies my characters picked up in our one game, my character's a druid, so I'm a hippie, I'm a guy, but I also used to be a bard before I changed class into ranger. So I have this natural ability where I want to talk to people. I want to find out their stories. Baked into my background is I have to bring stories back to my druid grove to prove why we shouldn't isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. Kind of took that from Baldur's Gate 3, where they're going to seal the grove. But one of the idiosyncrasies my character has, I cook. And I make sure our group is fed. I make sure our group is prepared. It's not just me casting Goodberry, because no. But I make sure to use my skills. Like, okay, I'm going to make a nature check. I'm going to do a survival check. I want to gather small game. I want to gather spices, and I want to make my guys a good meal. And it came in handy when we started trekking through dangerous territory, where I'm like, okay, I'm making dinner. I've caught and killed a few rabbits. I'm going to start making boot liners for our boots so our feet don't get wet and they get warm. You're thinking, Mike, isn't that a little weird? Yeah, until trench foot gets you and your foot falls off.
Yeah.
I'm an amputee, so you don't want to lose a leg. It sucks. But point of the matter is, I use that little idiosyncrasy to build something interesting into the narrative. And it paid off in spades because I ran an idea past my GM because he's very collaborative. I'm like, well, there's a feat in the book and it's fairly benign, but it's called chef. And he's like, why would you want to take that? Because I cook anyway. Can I get some mechanical benefit out of it? Yes, it raised my wisdom by 1, which is now max 20, which is awesome. But it also gave me the ability to give my guys food that can boost their temporary hit points a couple times per day. And that just came from one of the beliefs I have in my indigenous culture is when you gather together and you share a meal, people talk. Food is bonding. Food is that conversation piece. And that can aid in role play, because one of the conversations that happened in our group is one of our players wasn't very happy that was always combat. And my DM heard that. He's like, okay, I hear you. I see you. What can we do here? And I said, hey, see what you can do. Give it a week. Think about it. And he's like, okay. And we had 2 back-to-back role play sessions that were amazing. And it's now set up the next part of the campaign. So when my friend Sam is done running his little session for all of us, we'll go back to my friend Peter's session and we'll continue the story now that everybody's had that. And again, that almost goes back to tip number 1 for me is talk to your DM. But you had mentioned doing accents, and yeah, that's good. Like, just if you can change your demeanor, if you can pick up on something without being over the top comical or ridiculous. Like if you try to think you're going to do a Jamaican accent for 3 hours, you're not.
I mean, if you can.
Yeah, if you can without it being gross.
Yeah.
And that's something too. Like, you can have fun with some of those things. Like, hell, even some of your NPCs, like sometimes I do over the top accents for certain people because I want to make a joke out of it, but I never turn that character into the joke, if you get where I'm going with that.
Another thing that you can do is change the tempo of your speech.
Yes.
You can start to talk like this for someone who maybe is a scatterbrained mage. Just, this is how they speak.
Or doesn't understand the nuance or immediacy of speech, like a golem or something like that. Like, and that's the time too. You can give your monsters personality too, but that's a separate thing. But yeah, you can do little things. And one of the things I find too is give your character a home life. Like, you've mentioned downtime, and that's something we're really going to talk about when we come back from break in just a minute here. Is what is downtime? Very quickly, it's what happens between the adventures. What happens when Danny Ocean and the rest of the Ocean's 11 crew, they rob the Bellagio and then blank. What happens between movies, right? What happens with Luke Skywalker between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back? I'll tell you what, it ain't great, but stuff still happens, but it's not the stuff that makes it up to the screen, so to speak. So we're going to talk about downtime when we come back here on the Spellbook. And Damien has some... I love the way you approach downtime, actually, and how much that encourages your group to grow. So we're going to hear some pretty cool thoughts out of you when we come back here on Guelph's only, that I'm aware of, podcast and radio show on tabletop role-playing games. We're going to throw down our summoning circle, and we'll be back right after this.
Hi, everybody. This is Lee Fields. You're listening to CFRU. You heard me. CFRU.
What character do you want to be? I want to play the Warlock.
Welcome back to the Spellbook on CFRU 93.3 Guelph Community Radio. So, downtime. Downtime is... Now, I look at downtime as more than just what happens between the adventures.
Mm-hmm.
When I mention downtime, I also consider, the end of the day of adventuring when you're all sitting around the campfire and things of that nature. Which, again, those are perfect opportunities for role play and things like that. However, with what you had mentioned before about how I do downtime, to go into a little bit more detail with that. So I lifted this from Blades in the Dark. The way they set up their downtime, it's an actual mechanic within the system where you get, it's usually two things you can do during your downtime. You can, start or work on a project. You can try to go gather resources. You can try to get information. There's various different things that you can do, but you have a limited number of them. And I think that helps people engage with the story in between heists or adventures or whatever you're as your, main adventure type deal. For instance, one game that I played as a player, one of my big downtime goals, and one of the things that I worked on with the character was I was trying to create basically a trade school in a homebrew D&D campaign. It's the same campaign that had my artificer. And that was one of the main things that character put their effort in outside of, going and trying to save the kingdom from the encroaching corruption that is the big bad in that game. But I think as a GM, when you run downtime, you want to give your players a reason to bite and a reason to engage with that. And on the flip side, since we're talking about, being players today, as a player, engage with downtime. Don't just be like, oh, my character rested. Have them work on a project.
Yeah, like your character's not going to be sitting in bed for 3 weeks and then jumping up like, oh boy, I get to swing my sword today. I'm not like, how did you earn your rent? What did you do? Do you have friends? Do you stay at home? Are you weird? Like, if you're a wizard or any type of a magic user, maybe you start brewing potions. Like my druid, for example, I don't just cook. I prepare healing potions when I get any chance for downtime. Like, all right, well, I guess while I'm making dinner, when we're just kind of hanging out between adventures, what am I going to do? I'm going to go gather ingredients and start making sure we have stuff stocked up. Stuff like that. I mean, one notable downtime thing that's going to happen to my character, when we come back from where we are in our current campaign, I promised a woman at an inn in exchange for us staying the night, I gave her a druidic recipe that was a stew that was exclusive to my circle. And I said, I will come back and work for you for one night to pay off my debt. She's like, really? You will actually come back? I'm like, yes. And if my dungeon master doesn't like, Mike, are you really going to do that? Yeah. because that's interesting. And it's such a little downtime thing that it builds character. It builds you from just a collection of stuff on a sheet. And that's kind of how I want to close out today's show here in the last couple minutes is you are so much more than a stat block. And I find looking at your character as a collection of numbers and tables and saves, that's not a story. Math is not a story. Math is there to assist the story. And you said something on one of our other shows that I'm probably never going to forget. The story happens between the dice rolls. That is, your character is you. It's not, oh man, I have an 18 strength. I'm so cool. Yeah, but your charisma is like 8. You look at it and say, I'm pretty girl. Like, play that. Be an idiot. Don't be gross about it. But, you can play that up. Or there are other things you can do. Give your characters flaws. Give your characters enemies. I'm not saying have John Wick and the Baba Yaga hunt you down. You could. Because it makes your character compelling. It makes you, when your characters go into a new city and they don't know anybody, and you start asking questions, you don't think someone's going to notice that? Maybe your enemy randomly shows up and is like I'm not saying they're like the mysterious stranger from Fallout where they one-shot you, but that could happen. It's like when you build your characters, being a good player, it's giving your characters life. It's personality. It's not just a funny accent. Some of the things I do when I get the rare time to role play in person, when I get a chance to play Star Trek, this is going to sound so cheesy, but I wear a comm badge on my t-shirts and sweaters. So if I have to call up to the ship, Ashkui to Enterprise, I'll tap my comm badge on my sweater because that's immersion for me. And some people will cosplay a little bit at the table. And this is a story I've wanted to tell for just like 30 seconds. But my friend Sam, he's putting together this Dragonlance game for us. And he went all out, Damien. You know who Rasslin is, right?
Yeah.
He dressed as Rasslin for us on camera. He was joking. He's like, I don't think the glitter's coming off. But he went costume, wig, makeup, everything.
Did he do the contacts?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh my God. I thought he was Dungeon Master for a minute. But then my friend Nick's like, dude, that's Rasslin. I'm like, holy crap. Because I'm reading the Dragonlance novels, like, whoa, that's so friggin' awesome. And we're not expecting you to be like professional level cosplayers. Like, Lord help you if you show up as a member of the like 501st and you play Star Wars, but you could. Do little things that help you feel comfortable. Maybe you wear a different hat. Maybe you do your hair a certain way. Maybe it's even your posture. Like, you talked about changing your demeanor. Maybe you're a laid back gambler and you pull that Han Solo swagger, or Star Trek when you come back to the table. Lord help you if you do the Riker maneuver and you swing your leg over the chair and sit down. Or, I don't know, just it's little bits of personality that just make those characters become more than words on a sheet, more than numbers, more than just the little nuances. And I know this sounds like I'm expecting you to join like the Stratford Theater Company. But the more you put into it, and if your group really buys in, and I think a lot of groups are doing this now, I really genuinely think so. A lot of groups are like, hey, if we're going to play pretend in our 40s, for example, let's really have fun with it. And even with younger groups, like some of the people, I've got some very young people in one of my Dragon campaigns I run at the friendly local game store. And this person is so new, but I'm trying to think what's a name I could give them. Let's call them Larry. Larry is so excited to play a barbarian, and they're having a blast. And they're like, can I say that? I'm like, dude, you're freaking Conan. Go to town. And they're like, yeah, I am Conan, aren't I? And you just invite people, and I guess one of our final tips today, don't judge. Never harsh anybody's vibe. If someone's being a jerk, you can say it, like, hey, could you dial it back? Because we haven't even talked about player behavior, really. Like, I guess in short, don't go punching every town guard in the face. Don't start bar fights, because then people aren't going to like you, and there's going to be bounty hunters looking for you sooner or later. If your DM has any sense of consequence in your world. And I'll say this, because this is a tip that a lot of people are going to think it'll make sense once I say it. If you're going to have in-game romance, don't make it weird.
Yeah, you don't want to end up on Reddit.
Yeah, exactly. You do not want to end up on D&D Doge's channel. Just don't be weird. Just say, hey, we have a nice night together. Fade to black. Or, like, it's 2026. Love is love. Don't be weird. Don't play a stereotype if you choose to play characters that are different from your own gender expression or sexuality. I often do, because it's an interesting world and I love to embody that space. And I have a lot of fun with it. And a lot of my players ask, why do you play women or gay characters? Because I'm like, it's interesting. It's so much more fun to me than just, I'm a straight indigenous dude, or I'm a bisexual indigenous dude most days, but I don't get to be badass girl ranger very often. I'm going to be a boss. So I guess, Damien, any closing tips from you?
When you sit down at the table, before you adopt your silly voice or anything like that, relax your shoulders. You're there to have a good time.
Yeah, because honestly, we're all there to relieve the stresses of the week. We're all there to turn off the horrible things that are happening outside for a couple of hours. And when we come back to the world and start fighting for all the equal rights that everybody deserves, we can be around the table. We can fight evil. We can kick down the portcullises of Castle Ravenloft and punch Strahd in the face. And we can all have fun doing it. So be a good player to your dungeon masters. And hey, bring snacks. It helps. But ask about allergies first. So I guess that's going to do it for us here on the Spellbook. Damien, one more time, if people want to get in touch with us, how do they do so?
We have a magical email address called Thespellbookshow@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you.
So guys, make sure you reach out to us on email. We'd love to read your messages on the show, and we will do so as soon as we have a couple in the can. So for the Spellbook, from the Feywild of the Forest City, we have been.
I am Damien.
And from the Royal City, broadcasting, not so much from the Magical Bard College of the University of Guelph, I've been Mike the Birdman Ashby, saying be excellent to each other, and we will catch you guys next time we crack open the Spellbook right here on Guelph Community Radio 93.3 FM.
It's not enough. We have a gallery of villains to look out for, but now we could be infiltrated by a shape changer. I can't even tell if any of you are acting strange because you've been replaced or because this group is full of weirdos.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Spellbook. If you happen to have any comments or suggestions, please send us an email at thespellbookshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're hungry for more, you can find Mike at thisweekingeek.net, covering a variety of nerdy topics, and Damien on YouTube at Magical Hack Makes for more TTRPG conversation.
That's it, man. Game over, man.